All right, y'all. We are back with another episode of Alumni on Air. And if you notice anything different, we're at a different location. And so I'm so excited and thankful to this guest for allowing us to come to this new venue in Memphis and learn more about what all she's doing, how she got here, but also just in this beautiful space with all these beautiful flowers. But before we jump into the guest, I want to just make sure I get us clear on where are we, what's happening. This is Alumni on Air. And this is a video podcast that my team and I created to hear the stories of amazing alums here in Memphis doing the work needed to get to one day. I'm Dr. Jamisha Hayes. I am the Managing Director of Programs for Teach for America Memphis. And I love what I do, talking to alums like this, but I also love working with amazing people on the TFA Memphis team, like my partner in all good things, James Larkin, who's behind the camera, who helps us set up, who came and made sure that we can come out of the TFA office and come into another location and venue. So thank you, James Larkin. He's also our Director of Communications and Alumni Engagement. And so, without any wasted time, I want to get into this guest. I'm so excited to have you. Thank you for coming. And my first question is, let's introduce ourselves. Who are you?
Yeah, I'm Marisa Mender-Franklin. I am the owner of Midtown Bramble Bloom, and I grew up in New York. I was a 2010 Corps member in the Mississippi Delta, and I've been in Memphis since 2015. So quite a while.
Quite a while. Okay, so New York. So take me back. So you said 2010 Corps member. Mm-hmm. So that means that it was like 2009-ish. Like, how did you hear about TFA? What made you say, oh, this is something I want to do?
Yeah, so a TFA recruiter approached me when I was in college. I went to American University in Washington, D.C.
I love American.
Yeah, me too. Mm-hmm. I loved being in D.C.
I love it too.
Yeah, a lot. Where were you?
So I did an internship in D.C. for the Council for Opportunity Education, and I was like really looking at the American University, and then I sneak on campus. That's off the camera, but yeah, I would have a good time.
Okay.
I have a good time over there.
Good time over there. Yeah, I see. I loved going to American. I went because I wanted to study abroad for an entire year, and American would let you do that. They let you do back-to-back abroad trips, and so I spent my entire junior year abroad. I was in Ghana for a semester, and then, which was so amazing, transformative.
Yeah.
And then I spent a semester in Belgium. So very different experiences, and did a lot of growing and identity work there. And my background, or my major, was in political science and international studies. So I was really interested in working in a nonprofit, but on the international side. And when I was in fall of senior year, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do exactly. I thought about joining the Foreign Service. I thought about working for nonprofits, but I wasn't ready to go back abroad. I had only been back in the U.S. for a few months, and so I was feeling a little lost for a while there. TFA caught me right at the right time.
That's what we do. We get you. We get you.
They
pull you in.
Yeah, and so I was interested in doing work that felt aligned with my long-term interests, that could have an impact. Like, I think American is full of people who want to do good in the world, and I was in that category, and so I did. I applied, and at the time there was a big push for Corps members to join the Mississippi Delta Corps. It was like a highlighted region at the time, and there was so much talk about the community that Corps members had in Mississippi, because it was so rural, and there were all these stories of like the community over long distances and relationships that people built, and that was something that really appealed to me. So I specifically asked to be a Delta Corps member.
Oh, nice.
Got assigned to Mississippi, and at the time the Delta Corps was was in Mississippi and Arkansas, so we had a really large geographical region.
Yeah.
And I spent 5 years in Mississippi. I was a core member for 2 years, and then I was a MTLD. Is that what we call it still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, back in the day. Well,
Back
not
in the
now,
day.
but yes.
Okay, I don't know what it's called.
Until recently, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was an MTLD for 3 years for the Delta team. So, yes, that was how I ended up in Mississippi.
I love that story because I kind of similarly, so I studied abroad my junior year as well, and I did get a little lost in the sauce. Had a plan I was going to go to law school and all this great stuff, and similarly TFA snatched me up because I was like completely in a pit of despair. Like, oh wait, am I really going to law school? Wait, I haven't taken the LSAT. What's happening? I had these thoughts. And so TFA just popped up on my campus, and I was just like, oh my goodness, what is this? I was like, I can do all these things, and I can go to law school afterwards. And then, of course, like we just talked about, the bug gets you, and you're there for 2 years, and then it's a lifetime. Next thing you know, you're
15
like,
years later.
what is happening? So that's beautiful, and I love that connection. And I think if you're watching us, if you're watching the podcast, you'll see a lot of that similar connection, that when you allow your heart to be opened up, you just never know where you'll fall, and still be able to do the good work. But I think everybody that joins the Corps they want to do good work alongside and with good people. So that's amazing. So you did the Corps experience, then you joined staff.
I did.
Yeah. Okay, so what was the experience now? Give a little bit of tea behind the curtains. What is it like to go from being a Corps member to joining staff immediately out of the Corps?
You know, it was an adventure. I loved the staff. I felt like there were really great people there. I think anytime that you're on the outside looking in, sometimes it's a little greener pastures than when you get in there. And that was definitely true. I joined staff at a time where the Mississippi team was really doing some serious reckoning around race and class and their orientations towards the community, and so it was a tumultuous time. But I actually, when I joined the Corps, one of my requests was that I would still be able to support the school that I had taught at, even though the rest of my Corps members, we were geographically based because the Delta is very spread out. So even though the rest of my Corps members were an hour and 15 minutes away, I was like, I have to stay connected to this school that I taught at. And so I would drive an hour and 15 minutes to see my Corps member who was at my old middle school, and to stay connected with my students. And she actually taught in the same classroom that I had taught in, but she taught ELA, I had taught math. But I got to see so many of my students every time I would visit, and it was so important to me to stay connected.
That's definitely key. I think I actually stayed in my place in school for taught there 40 years, and then when I joined staff, I became an MTLD as well, and I coached at the school that I taught at, and so it definitely is something to stay connected in that community, and just to be able to watch your babies grow in that school, it becomes a part of the family, it becomes a part of your fabric almost. You don't want to leave it undone. It's like having a puzzle, and you have all the pieces on there except for a few, and it's like, I'm just going to leave it there. No, you want to keep plugging it until you get it all the way completed.
Right.
Or at least as close to completion as you can.
Yeah. No, when I was considering leaving the classroom to become an MTLD, I had so many conflicting feelings about it. Like, I felt a lot of guilt, honestly, for even considering leaving my students at my placement school. And I had built so many relationships. I was the first Corps member who had been at that school, and I was the only Corps member at the school the whole time I was there. And I was also the only white person at the school, which was such an important part of my journey and an interesting part of my story for sure. And given all of those things, I just I wasn't ready to say goodbye, and really valued that time that I had as an MTLD, still getting to stay connected.
Love it. I love that. I love the leaning in on learning and learning in that space. So you did that you taught for 2 years, and you did the staff for 3 years in the Delta. And then, so when did the transition come to Memphis? So what brought you here to Memphis?
So after living in the Delta for 5 years, I was was ready to be back in the city, and I just felt like, the core can be a very, like, you can feel like there's a constant rotation of people, especially in Mississippi where it's really rural and our community was we were very connected to other core members. And like every year it was like, okay, who's leaving? All right, who's leaving? And it just felt like staying for 5 years was like unheard. There were people who did, but it was not common at all. And I was looking for a place where I could build long-term relationships that felt a little more stable, and also where I could feel like I had access to resources in the community. Like where I lived in Mississippi, if we wanted to go to the grocery store, it was an hour drive. And when we would get together for all core Saturdays, it was an hour and a half drive. So we were just very far away from like basic parts of life, and so I wanted to be in a city, and but I wasn't ready to leave the Delta. I wanted to be geographically close.
Yeah.
So I was looking at Memphis and Jackson because then I was still close to the Delta, but I was having more access to resources. And as I was looking at jobs in Memphis, I heard about a school that was opening that had a focus on restorative justice practices, like teaching self-regulation, on kids getting to play as part of their like learning curriculum, and I was really compelled. You might notice a pattern of me getting on board with a mission and feeling really compelled. Yeah, it was a new elementary school that was opening in South Memphis, and it was a charter school, and I was very on the like public school side of things. I'd only ever worked in public schools, but I was really compelled by the mission, and I applied and ended up joining the founding team as a kindergarten teacher.
Nice. Which
was a big jump from my background in middle school math. So it just took a little detour just right on over there. But yeah, I helped to found the school, and then I stayed at the school for 5 years as a teacher, and then I became the Dean of Family and Community Engagement and did a lot of social work, building out resources for families and community supports for our school.
Love it, love it. And so I really also noticed this pattern here where you like to get rooted in your community. You like to plant the roots and then nurture the seeds and then help it grow. So you're doing these 5-year stints in spaces. Like you're like, I gotta get there. And so with that and the family engagement, what's one of the highlights of the experience of either teaching or being that Dean of Family Engagement?
Oh, I mean, lots of things. One, I looped with my students, so I taught them in kindergarten and then I taught them in first grade. And my students from then are now in high school, and I still get to see many of them. And my favorite thing about the school was the relationships I had with families and building long-term relationships over time. Even when I moved into an administrative role, like I got to be there with my students and their families and provide supports to families over 5 years. So I saw my same students from kindergarten through 5th grade.
Yeah.
I got to see their younger siblings come to school. I knew their older siblings. I got to see their families in lots of different moments of life, and that was my favorite thing, I think. In my role as an administrator, we built a garden that I was really proud of. We applied for a grant. We also got a grant through the city of Memphis to build a family center with washers and dryers and food pantry and basic needs pantry and uniform closet, and I was really proud of that work. At the time that was just starting to become a thing that schools were doing, and it was really exciting to get to build that out at our school.
That is so amazing. And I've always in education, I love academics. I did great, had great results with my kids. And what I loved the most was when I got to do the enrichment and be a part of the family and part of the community. So my kids would go to the movies together, we get meals done together. I would go to their after-school activities. I started after-school programs that again enriched them, not just their minds, but their hearts, and just also made sure that they were able to flourish completely as people. And I think when I hear what you're talking about, I love that connection of making sure that we're not just touching them and helping them with how to be best students, but how to be great people and giving their families opportunities to shine and revel in the resources they deserve and need. So I love that. I think that's amazing. So how did you get from that work to what you're doing now?
Yeah, so quite the journey. Can I say one more thing about working with families?
Yeah.
I wanted to say that we brought in lots of resources from other organizations, but actually our number one partner in providing resources for families were families themselves. So we would, when we had a new initiative, we'd share it with families, and the amount of like support and donations and like volunteer hours that we received was so powerful. And I'm just a very big believer in the fact that what we need is already in our communities. And yeah, it's great to get resources from the outside. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but the power in communities is intense. And honestly, that it brings me to my current work, where I started 5 years ago. This is year 5.
Okay, y'all. So you got the pattern. So every 5 years, be looking out to see where Marisa is.
Well, who knows? Hopefully, I'm still here in another 5 years because I've put some roots down. But yeah, so I was interested in farming as a social entrepreneurship effort, like thinking about how we can use spaces that we already have in our community that are just kind of being unused, and make them profitable for the community as a whole. At the school that I worked at, we had just like massive sports fields that we had to mow, but we didn't actually use. They were very rarely used for anything. We didn't have sports teams at the middle school level, and we also like our playground portion was just a small section, and there was like a whole front lawn that was the same size as the back lawn.
Wow.
And I mean, the amount of money that we spent on maintaining lawn was wild. And so I was imagining what could we use that space for, and I had big dreams of like a veggie plot where we were growing vegetables that could then benefit the family, or growing flowers that we could sell to use to benefit families.
Right.
But during the early days of the pandemic, the school was shut down through, not because of academics, but because of politics and charter school politics. And honestly, I was grieving. Like, I loved my school community. I loved families, and all of a sudden, in the middle of a global pandemic where we had been doing like food drives and like getting students homework packets and like sharing resources with families, all of a sudden we had to say, actually, our school is closing at the end of this year in 2 months, and we don't even get to see you again. Like, it's goodbye. And yeah, I was grieving, and at that point I'd been in education for 10 years, and I think we all deal with burnout at different times.
Yeah,
and I just didn't feel like I had it in my soul to fall in love with a new school community in the way that a school community deserves to be loved, and to be given the energy that students deserve to be given. And so that was when I started thinking about different path for myself, and entrepreneurship, farming was my path. And if I tell you the story of how the farm started, you'll hear a lot of the same themes. So we don't own any of the land that we farm on. We grow in 10 yards and empty lots in Midtown, and we have free leases with all of our landlords, so they let us use their space in exchange for lawn care and flowers. And we are taking properties that they were either just lawn or they were even like a blighted lot, and now they're productive farm plots that are benefiting our ecosystem and creating beauty in our community, and also letting us pay employees to providing quality jobs. And we're also able to donate portions of our proceeds back to organizations that are doing good work in Memphis. And the entire business model runs on community. When I was looking for land to grow on, I put out a request on the local Buy Nothing group, and I said I had flowers in search of a home, and I explained that I was wondering if anyone would let me use part of their lawn for growing in. And I posted that, and then I was like so keyed up. I had so much energy in my body that I went for a walk. And as I was walking, my phone started dinging, like ding after ding. And by the time I had gotten home, I had 40 people offering me their land.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. You can grow in my yard. I'd love it. And honestly, even to this day, every week we still have somebody be like, "Oh, do you need more space?"
Wow.
The answer is no. We are. I have pinky promised both my husband and our farm manager that I will not add any properties anytime soon. But it's the entire business is an experiment in community and
love that.
how we can use what we already have in our community and repurpose it in a way that is beneficial to everyone. And I'm a big believer. We already have what we need, and together we can really create something powerful. So we've been farming. This is our 5th year farming. We've used this same model the entire time. Now we have 7 employees, and I do this work full time as well. And a year and a half ago, we opened this brick and mortar shop where I teach lots of workshops, and we also do everything that a normal florist would do, but with locally grown flowers. And the floral industry is one where there's just there's a lot of waste. There's a lot of things that are not great for our planet that are happening between packaging and then the chemicals that are sprayed on things and shipping, the emissions when you're shipping. So by going hard in on local flowers, we're interrupting that market, and we're helping to get local flowers into the hands of other florists and other people who would have normally been buying wholesale flowers from outside of the U.S. And all of our farming is fully organic. We practice really regenerative growing practices. So not only are we not hurting the planet with our growing, we're actively building healthier ecosystems right here in Midtown. And so many farms are, you think of a farm and it's in a rural area, but agriculture done right can be really beneficial to the people around it. We have the beauty of the flowers, but we also have the oxygen that they're releasing. We have all of the pollinators that are attracted to our flowers that then pollinate, your veggies. There's just so many benefits to being around gardens, and by using this model of a community-centric farm, we're able to be in Midtown proper instead of needing to be in a rural area to afford the amount of land that we use. So that's what I'm doing now.
I think that is just, if you were listening, it was beautiful with the community aspect, but also you saw how the teaching was always, she's teaching us right now. We were learning. That was a lesson. That was a mini lesson, mini capsule, right, on community and in terms of doing something to not only just be a part of the community, but to advance the community, and also a little science lesson in there too, because I was just like, I remember that about oxygen and flowers and the pollination. So I was like, yes, this is a mini science class as well. Yes. I really love that, and civics class. And so when you think about the work you're doing, does that align to your vision of one day? Like when you talk about this one day, all children have access to excellent education. Could you see a through line to what you're doing and providing children and or families access to excellent education and access to things that they need?
Yeah, so I think so. I feel like definitely with our work in the environment, like we all deserve to live in a healthy planet, and there are so many things that we need to do. There's so much policy that needs to be changed, but also micro actions that we're taking on the individual level and at the community level also make a big difference. And so, I dream of one day where our kids are not living in polluted communities. They're not living in exploited communities. I think we're all watching what's happening in South Memphis with the pollution happening around XAI. Like, and that's not the first time, and it's not the only pollution that's happening there. So our work feels very connected to that. But also, we are very intentional about what we do with our profits as a business. I think that businesses should not be about getting rich. We make money so that we can pay employees well, and we make money so that we can donate to organizations in our community. This year we just added a new seed library, so it's a free seed library where people can come and get free vegetable seeds and free native wildflower seeds, and we sell seeds. We sell veggie plants, but we want to make sure that anyone who wants to grow food and anyone who wants to have a wildflower garden can do that.
Yeah.
Because food prices are increasing rapidly, and the people who are most affected by that are low income communities. So we want people to be able to grow food for themselves and for their community. And we're donating profits every month to organizations. So far this year we've donated it to the ACLU, we've donated to Choices, we've donated to the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition. So we're making money to do good work.
I love that. Again, I just feel like I'm in such a master class on what it means to be a servant leader, right? And to serve a community. And I really appreciate it because I didn't think about that. The way you're thinking about providing resources to communities and just your philosophy on what the purpose of entrepreneurship is. I hadn't heard that. I hear people always talk about, donating, and I've been hearing people talk about giving back, but it's almost like I do that because I'm supposed to do that, like that makes me look good, but I feel like when you're speaking, it's genuinely about, I want to make sure that I make enough money to give my employees a very good salary, but also to make sure I can give back and kind of flourish the community in. And also this idea of like, I can sell seeds, but also I can give something away for free. And you don't feel like that is a competing commitment or that there's a second thought to that. I really appreciate that. That's really refreshing. And that's and it kind of seems like, again, something that is a through line with you in your work over the years of what does it look like to be a part of something, to contribute and not take, but to pour in and provide, and also uplift and shine and create space for what's already there. It's really unique and really great.
Yeah, I just have such a belief that community requires us to give and receive. And so there are lots of ways that we are committed to giving back, but also the way that we've built this community was by asking.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I think this is true of the core experience, like we position ourselves as the giver. And there's like pride in being like, oh, I'm here to do good. I'm here to have a positive impact. And we don't think about the ways that we can be receiving and being intentional about asking for things. Asking for things in a way that our community can show up for us. Like the free seed library, we accept donations of seeds that people have saved from their garden. So there's no financial commitment there. All it is being a great gardener. Or like, when I was in the classroom, there were always asks of families, like things for them, ways for them to volunteer, canned food drive, like small contributions that had a big impact on the classroom, that I think people are often afraid to ask of families. So you can't build community if you're only giving. You can't build community if you're only asking. It has to be this a genuine interplay between a belief that we really truly all need each other.
And we're interconnected. I love that because it's like you matter, I matter. You said this thing years ago with Institute, I'm your person, you are mine, and everything's a choice and every choice has an impact. Those mindsets that we would share, I think they stuck with me, they live with me, because you're right, we all are connected and we have to align. And that kind of gets into this idea of like, if you were to give advice to an incoming core member right now, we have the 2025 core coming.
Oh my gosh.
Shout out 2025, I know that's crazy.
It's crazy.
2010, 2011, and now we have 2025 coming. That's super amazing, and I'm excited for it. But what advice would you give to them as they're entering into the core?
Yeah, so two things. One is just to operate with deep humility. The same mentality that I'm saying there. When I was a core member, there was one other math teacher at my school, and I knew that she was having trouble passing the praxis, but she was a veteran teacher who'd been there for a long time. And I think that, looking back, that I didn't spend as much time learning from her as I could have. Like, I should have been in her classroom every day on that planning period, because she was excellent at what she did. But looking back, I think first year Marisa had a mentality that this thing that she was struggling with impacted her quality of her teaching, which was not a fact at all. She had skills that I needed, and I did not have those skills. So I just would encourage core members to operate with a deep sense of humility for the people around them at every level, not just teachers and administrators, but also, the lunch ladies or the janitors.
Yes.
Like, as I have progressed in my career, those are the people who have taught me the most and had the biggest impact on my classroom. And then the other thing I would say is sign up for car duty as soon as possible, because being face to face with families every day, rain or shine, like putting kids in their cars, talking with families, that was transformative for me as a teacher. And I didn't have car duty until I was in Memphis, and then it just got assigned to me, and all of a sudden I was like, this is actually like my favorite part of the day. And the relationships that I'm building in that 1 minute that I'm putting kids in the car or we're waiting for their child to come out, were so important to the community that I created, and also to the impact of my class, the educational impact of my classroom. So sign up for car duty. It's not always fun. Like, there were days where we were getting blown away in a hurricane, but not a real hurricane. But it was a good time, and but still, it was the best choice I ever made.
I think that is the most unique advice I've heard on this podcast, but I also think it's actually very profound, because I do think the car duty experience it definitely does allow you to get some real authentic, let me get to know you. And it's also the perfect time to have that one-on-one conversation with that parent that's on the go or their guardian that's on the go. And it's also a great time to pour in and send kids off in a loving way. Because that's the perfect time. It's like, you did so great today, Kadarius. I really loved how you were leading the lesson. And then the parents like, oh, what? So it's just a way to authentically have a conversation and check in. Funny story, I remember when I was teaching and my car broke down. And so my mother came and had to pick me up. And so it was so funny. So the kids, you know, they would do the walkie-talkie, calling the different names. So like Jamilica and Jamaica. So they was like, Miss Hayes, your bride is here. And so all the kids burst out laughing. It was like, you're in the car ride? I was like, my car, I told y'all I don't have a car today. And so, but it's just like, and then like we just walking out with them and going, and so just getting that experience, even just kind of going back in their shoes. And literally in that moment, I'm an adult and my mom was picking me up in the car line. But I was so excited to go get in that car with my mom and tell her about my day. And that's the same thing that kids are feeling. And I got to talk to the kids on the way out, and they're like, oh, that's your mom. And so now it's a conversation, and they're meeting my mother, and we're just talking about the experience of what we're going to eat for dinner, or what was the best thing of the day, or the worst thing of the day. And so I think you're right. Like, that was good. That was good advice. Good advice.
Quick plug too, if teaching can be real hard on your mental health, and there was something really powerful about having a hard stop on my day. Like I had to go outside at a certain time, and then also you're getting your vitamin D. So do it for selfish reasons or do it for the community connection, but sign up for car duty.
I think that's so true. I definitely now I'm stepping outside more and more if I can. So what advice would you give to the core members who are finishing up their commitment? They're either transitioning to year 2 or they're about to transition to alumnihood. That's a very important time of that 1 to 2 year experience. You're almost done, or you're like, I'm done. What do I do next? What are some of your advice?
Yeah, so a few things. One, I would say 2 years in the classroom is just barely scratching the surface of teaching. So I definitely encourage you to stay in the face-to-face education work for longer. I should have stayed in the classroom longer before I became an MTLD. All of the times that I've gone back to the classroom, I have learned so much and grown so much as a teacher. So it can feel like, oh, I've accomplished these 2 years. I'm ready for this next thing, but stay in that role longer. And then almost contradictory, I'll say, I'm 15 years into my TFA experience, and I have, as you've heard, worn many, many hats over the years, and each time I have had big feelings about leaving the work that I was doing and wondering if what I was planning on doing next would be impactful. And I just will say that there's room for all of us in this work, and finding a place where you can maintain your mental health, your sense of self, your energy levels, and also have an impact is so important. And so I think there's such a balance there. I'm glad I didn't let myself stay in roles that weren't right for me because of this sense of guilt. I'm glad that I took on different roles, and also every role I've ever had, my first students are with me. They're in the decisions that I've made all along the way, and that does take some intentionality too, though. Don't just tell yourself that they're with you, but gut check yourself on the off end about how what you're doing is honoring that.
I love, yes, Chef's Kiss. Kiss your brain is what I heard somebody tell me, and I now still in the chair to everybody, is kiss your brain on that intentionality, because I do think as a core member, as a staff member, even now, like you said, decade plus in education, I hear and I have said, I'm doing this for the kids, or I've been in rooms where people saying, it's about the kids. And I think that if we're not intentionally gut checking ourselves, is it truly about the kids, or is it really about what you believe and what you think kids need? And if you haven't been back in the classroom for a while, no matter where you go, like you said, keep your first kids in mind. You have to keep those first kids in mind because, again, remember, they were your first teachers. They taught you something so much, and you remember how humbled you had to be, how much you had to learn, how much you had to grow. And that while you did good work, yes, but don't forget that there were still probably things you thought you knew. That when you pull back the layers, it was so much more to it. And that's the same thing that's probably true for the situation you're in now, and experiences. So we talk about keeping the kid, like it's about the kids. It's an intentional reflection period. It's an intentional space of how am I showing up? Am I actually making decisions really with kids in mind? And then what kids am I talking about? Because first kids, I'm talking about the actual first kids, but it's also like the freshest kids that you can get with as well. So you make a decision about kids, but when was the last time you actually sat with kids seriously and got that information? And really used that to drive your truth first? It's just your own childhood you, like little you telling you, or just like even a past version or even a made up vision of what you think should be true for children?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I went back to the classroom 3 times. Like I was a core member, and then when I taught kindergarten and first grade, and then even after that, after I was a dean, when our school closed for a while, I taught K through 2 specials online to us out of school in South Memphis, but during the pandemic. And I think that there's so much power in the like going and coming back, and like you're never as rooted as you are when you are in the classroom. And I think the longer you've been away from it, you lose something. And so going back, whether that's actually working in a school or like connecting with kids and families in a different way, but you gotta be closely day in day out with kids repeatedly.
Yep. I agree. And then in terms of our alums, what would be your charge or call in for them as they are watching this, as they are in their 5th year, 15th year, or 3rd year, first year alum? What's some of your advice for them?
I don't know. I feel like everybody's journey is different. I think I'd say the same thing as what I'm saying to new alums, which is just like, when was the last time you were with kids? And how do you see your work connected to it? I think it's important to do that gut check, because I'm 15 years in and I feel distant from it sometimes, and so
I agree. I think that no matter what we do, when you become, what I love about, let me start there. What I love about Teach for America is we understand that it's an ecosystem. It's going to take, we're dealing with humans, and it's human-centered work, and so it's going to be a complex intersectional space to kind of get to change. It's specifically systemic change. So it's going to have to be multiple people at multiple stages of the journey coming together, working towards one vision. But the reality is, even when you go become that doctor and you open that practice in the neighborhood that you taught it, or you become a lawyer and you start practicing law on behalf of the students that you notice weren't getting their services or things of that nature, you teach for 15 years, just remembering that at the end of the day, you still started this journey with TFA. You still started this journey with the idea that all children need access to excellent education. And so no matter what you're doing, as we talked about, get back close. Always take a second look, a fresh eye. Maybe you've been steeped in one community, go to another community and see how much more you can learn and bring that back. Again, with the mission and the vision of how can I ensure that I'm helping every kid have access and their family have access to excellent education. And never forgetting what you talked about, which is this idea that nobody you're interacting with is an empty vessel, which is why you have to go seek it out and continue to talk and learn so that you can be poured into and gather the information. So I think that's definitely true. And I think if we all continue to keep that in mind, keep that first kid in mind, keep that first class in mind, keep that first reason why you joined in mind, you're going to evolve and have different things, but never forget your why. I feel like we will see a lot more change in our communities, even more than we're already seeing. I'm so proud of the alums in Memphis, but across the country, and how I see us really making a change and being those servant leaders and asking those tough questions and making the hard decisions and falling down and getting back up. I think that's really beautiful. And so I think as an alum, like you said, let's not forget why we did this. Let's not forget about our kids. Let's not forget about the community. And let's not forget about ourselves. Like, we're thinking that we're still students ourselves, so let's keep learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't forget to come to Memphis Bloom. That's where you need to do. You need to make sure you come because this is an amazing shop. You can't see all of it, you all, if you haven't come, but it's so beautiful. I feel so refreshed. I feel like I'm getting more oxygen in here, and I'm inside because of all the plants and everything we have going on.
I'm so glad.
Such a business.
It's Midtown Bramble.
It's Midtown Bramble. Sorry, Memphis Bloom's Midtown Bramble, y'all.
Very confusing.
Very confusing moment. Sorry, but Midtown Bramble. Yeah, it would not be me if I didn't have a blooper, but definitely yes. It's our first time in a location, but definitely Midtown Bramble. And could you say the address so everybody knows?
Yeah, it's 2294 Young Avenue. We're in Cooper Young, close to the Liberty Bowl Stadium.
Close to and it's
Midtown Bramble and Bloom.
Midtown Bramble and Bloom. Midtown Bramble. But again, we're blooming in Memphis. There we go. All right, thank y'all so much. We're going to see you next time. Please make sure in the chat you share just your stories about how you're connecting back to students and kids and families, how you're constantly pouring into yourself and into your community, and also making sure that you are coming and visiting our alum and coming and see what's happening in the shop. Just stop by, see what you find, see what's happening, check out the neighborhood, grab a bite to eat, and then maybe go and figure out how to plant your own garden.
Yeah, come get some free seeds, some grow some veggies.
See you later.